Hello and welcome along to Adobe After Effects with your host Robert Smith. In this part 2 of animating some typography using a camera and a null object, here we are. In the first video we've set up some type, we've put a light, a camera, some type and a background like this. So let's continue. Now I'm looking at my scene and I'm thinking that word spin out is still a bit difficult. I don't particularly like these grey bits at the end. So I'm going to double click on my light like this and go to my intensity and just up it just a little bit, and my cone angle just a little bit to make it just a little bit bigger like that to about 88%, and OK. That's a bit better. Actually, I might just drop that intensity back. It's probably a little bit too intense because I'm going to add another light, so I'll just drag that back a little bit. See, this is what you do all the time. You look at it and go, no, I'm going to change that. So you go back in and just change the numbers. OK. Now what I'm going to do is add another light. To do that, I'm going to hold the control key down and click down here, go to new light like this. Now I want a spotlight. This time I want the intense, that's fine. The cone angle, I want it to be quite small, down to about 35%. And I'll click OK. Great, that's what I want. A more specific spotlight, if you like, it's pointing straight at the type. Now I'm going to twirl that down a little bit and go to my transform under the light 2, the second light, and where it says X rotation, I'm going to move that up a little bit to about there, like that, so it's pointing directly at it. And I'm going to grab my Y rotation and it goes right to the end. I'm just dragging that to the right, the second number. You'll notice it's pointing at the T and the U now. That's where I'm going to start my animation. So if I put a keyframe there like that, then move to about 2 seconds in time, and I'm going to grab that and the second number on the Y rotation and just drag it to the left like that. So now it's lighting up the S and the P. And now a quick way of repeating that, so we have it for 10 seconds. I'm going to go Apple C by just dragging a marquee over those, Apple C, to copy them, and go to about here and paste them again. And paste them again like that. OK, Apple V to paste them, and now I get this spotlight that's going across my typography, which is exactly what I want, much more dramatic. OK, now let's get to animating with the camera. To do that, you'd think you would just twirl down this thing like you do everything in After Effects, and you've got your X and Y rotation, and you can do this, but you'll notice the minute you start to rotate it, funny things start to happen. Everything starts to disappear. I'll Apple Z that. And on the X rotation, up, if I'm just left and right like that, everything disappears. Hard to animate. Z rotation is quite good. It seems to just like a normal rotation. Okay, now how we get around that is something called a null object. Now, how do we create one? It's quite simple. If I hold the control key down and click in this grey area and go to new null object like this, and you'll see now I've got a layer called null1. Now a null object has no form at all. It's just an object. You can't see it, and what it's usually used for is to direct other layers what to do and things like that. But more of that, let's just demonstrate. It's very hard to explain, but let me just demonstrate it. What I need to do is I need to parent this camera to this thing called the null object. And to do that, now over here you'll see a thing called parent. Now if you don't have that, you can hold the control key down on the Mac and click on this little grey area like that, and you'll see columns comes up, and then you can get your parent if it's not there. Okay, now to parent this camera to the null object, there's two ways of doing it. I can go to this camera layer and on this little drop down here select null1 like that, or I can do it a much more stylish way. I can grab this little thing called a pick whip, this thing here, and drag it up onto the null object. Very Dreamweaver. Okay, so if I let go, Dreamweaver being a web app. Okay, like that, now you'll see that camera 1 is whatever null object does, the camera will do. And you'll see now we start to animate it like this. If I was, for example, to made that same mistake I always make, forget to convert to a 3D layer. If I click on here like that, Now it's a 3D layer. Now we can animate it in 3D space. As you can see, we can. So now as we spin it around, we can still see the typography along the X rotation, which is great, and the Y rotation seems to spin it on the spot rather than do the big turn like it does. So let's do a little bit of animating. Okay, so let's move this back to the start like that. Actually, I'll Apple Z that to there. Go back to the start. And let's just set it up a really interesting angle. To do that, I'm just going to, let's play with the Y rotation a bit. We'll start like that, a little bit of X rotation. Okay, great. Now I'm going to put a keyframe there, X, Y, Z. Now what I'm going to do is, this is a very old technique I used to use, I'm going to put a keyframe just about in position, scale, all of them, just in case I want to animate something as we go through this process. So you notice I've got a keyframe in all of those. So I just might move to about 1 second like this, and let's do a little bit of animating along the Y-axis like that. So it animates across, looking good. Let's have a look at that, what that looks like. If I press, very nice indeed, very impressive. You'll notice how the null object now is telling the camera what to do. And what I might do is, now to go back to this keyframe here, I'm going to press the letter J like that. I might give it a little bit of X rotation too, just a little bit like that. Very nice indeed. Okay, so we've got this little bit of animation. We're loving that. Let's move along a bit. And what I'll do is, while I'm here, I'm going to drag down along these keyframes here. Now I don't have to do that. I just want to keep a keyframe for every property, just like that. It just makes life a little bit easier, I find, as time goes by. Okay, I'm going to do a massive spin around now. Okay, to do that, I'm just going to, first of all, go to my Y rotation, put a keyframe in there like that by clicking over here, and then I'm going to move along a little bit like that, and I'm going to give it, say, 2 rotations. Actually, that's 1, so I'll just click in there on the first number on the Y rotation and put in 2. And let's have a look at that. So we have this very nice spin around like that. I'm really liking that. And I'm going to go to this point here, and I'm going to add all those keyframes again. Now, you don't have to do this. This is the technique I've picked up over the years, where I just put a keyframe in all of those, just in case something's going to change. Okay, now what I want to do is, I want to spin it along the X rotation, just a little bit like that. Very nice indeed. And again, I'll put some more keyframes in there for everything else. Now what I want to do is, I want to move it up a little bit, actually at that point there, so I'll grab my X rotation and move it up a little bit. So it looks like that. Very nice indeed. So we've got it looking like it does a massive spin, goes in there like that. And now I want the typography to get closer to the background. Okay, and from about this point here, so I'm going to close up the null object, go to my spin out or type layer, open up the transform like this. And what I want to do is, I want to put a I'll put a keyframe for position like that. Then move along a little bit, and using this number here, the 3rd number, I'll drag it towards. Notice how the shadow is getting closer. It looks quite dramatic, like that. So now, as you can see, I'm spinning around. Most of the time I'll just spin the null object like that. So I like that. Then I'm going to go back to my null object like this. I'm going to put a whole lot of keyframes in at that point there. Move along a little bit. And then I'm going to spin it down like that. No, it's too far. So I'll spin it to about here. And there it is. Now you can keep going forever and ever playing around with these things. Now it takes a little while to get used to it, but once you start to understand that a null object simply just tells other layers what to do, and especially a camera like that, you'll find you'll have a lot of fun animating your typography. Okay, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in another video.